everyone, and welcome to Sphere of Success, which looks at challenge and adversity in business and how we reframe that in a genuine way, not in a toxic way, of making sure that we are looking at this in a positive element, learning journey. Is there anything that we need to do for some inner work to come out and stop limiting beliefs or maybe behaviors that are keep on getting us into these tricky situations? And a lot of this can come about by the way that we show up, that we don't realize that our body language might be giving off a certain element to other people that perhaps is coming back in a negative way. So today, as a lovely segue to that, I have the most amazing vocal tuition specialist. He has been a wonderful actor. The name drops that he can give are just stellar. I mean, he knows the ins and outs of all of that world. It's fabulous. And also he is a top 10 Amazon best-selling business book author as well. So, he puts his money where his mouth is, so to speak. It's a joy to have David Roylance on the show to really give us the wisdom and the insight where he can take business people from, say, earning 100,000 up to 200,000, 300,000 plus by a few simple tweaks over
And
a few
actually
months.
more if we're talking about people who run their own businesses. If we're
Absolutely.
talking to entrepreneurs this afternoon, you can close significantly more than that if you have confidence and you know how to do it from the
Ooh,
stage.
bring it on. It sounds fabulous.
Yeah.
So, David, let's dive into that. Let's think about why would somebody who is not struggling necessarily, but knows there's more in there. I can get better clients. I can get
Yes.
better sales. I can elevate my position within a company or my business, my own company can thrive more than it is already. What's your secret sauce?
Perception of value. So
Mhm.
let me elaborate on that. Um, I remember going to one of my first business networking events, and this thrusting young Australian man jumped up on the stage and said, "I'm here to give you massive value." And my first thoughts were, "I'll be the judge of that." So it's like you can't force value on people. What you can do is work out who do you want to serve and give people perception of value.
Go into that a little bit more. Perception of value.
Yes.
About that a
So
little bit
they
more.
decide, they get to decide whether you're valuable or not. So if you
Ah,
know who it is you want to serve, then one of the things you have to do is have to learn how to articulate what you do so that those you want to serve go, "Oh, I need to talk to them." And the other thing you need to do is you need to show up in a way that makes them feel safe.
them feel safe.
Yes,
Oh,
safe.
there's something to go into here. What does
Because
what does that
so
safety mean?
well, here's the thing. In the moment someone's in a sales conversation as a potential buyer, they get frightened. And the thing they get frightened of is, what if I buy something and I don't get a result? So, having admitted, I want to be in this conversation with you, then the mind immediately retreats to what if I spend a lot of money and I don't get a result? What if they're not any good? What if this? What if that? Right? And so our job is to make it safe for them to come back.
And how do
And
we do that?
how we show up physically, it's a case of people believe your body before they believe your words. Right? So in terms of first impressions, and I always go back to Professor Alan Pease, who wrote the body language book that he helpfully called The Body Language Book. And in his book, he said, it takes 23 seconds to form an opinion that is then difficult to shift about a human being. And we do this every time we meet people, not just the first time, every time. 23 seconds to form an opinion, which is purely based on, am I safe in this conversation? So, for instance, show of hands, right? We feel much safer when we can see the palms of people's hands, because the unconscious mind will then know they're not carrying any weapons.
This is kind of like back into the days of the caveman and the saber-toothed
Correct,
tiger, isn't
correct.
it?
Totally, totally. And the hypothalamus, the part of the brain that's there to keep us alive, the unconscious mind has to make decisions quickly. So if you think about it, 7% of the decision-making process is about the words that someone is saying.
7%.
7%.
That's not very high.
38% is tonality of voice. 55% is the non-verbals.
Oh,
Body language, posture, dress, hair, all smell, all the things that lead us to go, is this person what they say they are? So, for instance, if we look at the voice, when we are talking about something that we have a passion about, our voice is most likely to move through different notes. So the hypothalamus takes vocal movement as a sign that someone's telling the truth, therefore they're safe. So if someone's speaking on a monotone and there's no movement in their voice at all, the hypothalamus actively tries to disconnect us from the voice because it's not safe to listen to that person.
why is that?
Oh, because there's no emotion behind it. So when we're passionate, when we're emotional, we'll elongate vowel sounds, we will move tonally as we speak, we'll start different sentences with different tones. It's natural, it's how the voice works, it's how we deliver ourselves to other people. But when there's nothing and we sound Dalek-ish, it's really difficult for any listener to hold on to that. And if you've ever sat through a lecture by a really boring professor who is just speaking on a monotone and never shifts his voice ever, it's not long before your own brain is trying to get you out of there, going, it's not safe. It's not safe. I have no emotional connection to tie to. I've got nothing that says that this is the truth. It may be the truth, but it's just the hypothalamus is just there going, stay alive, stay alive. So I'm going to stop you listening to this person, so that you
Wow.
stay alive.
Or you fall asleep because you just so, oh gosh.
Yeah, yeah.
But
That's also a hypothalamus sort of safety valve thing, you know.
this is
If you
very
fall asleep,
interesting.
can't harm you, right? But if you think about this the way people go into conversations, this again is, it's like if you're in a service based business, as I am, and you have a service where you're charging 10,000-15,000 pounds to work with people, then you find that people have an expectation of how you're going to show up if they're going to consider investing that kind of money.
And that's before then, presumably, you've even been able to display any knowledge
Yes, totally.
or engaged in any form of dialogue. They're already making up their mind before you've even, I know you help people with this, but open their mouth.
Yes. And when you add on top of that, if you want to do it on a stage where you're working one to many, where you're delivering something to a group of people, that adds an extra dimension where you have to keep the whole of the audience safe. So you have to form a relationship with them, which is very different to delivering to them.
Now, you've mentioned the word relationship, and
Oh,
I'd like
yes.
you to go into more detail here because
Mm.
there is a challenge. People would say, oh, well, I don't get on with these types of people, our personalities clash, or they took a view of me before I'd even opened my mouth that they
Mm.
weren't going to like me. Now that kind of starts to make sense from what you're talking about.
Yes.
How can you build relationships with people that perhaps necessarily, in the whole scheme of things, you wouldn't choose to have as your friendship circle, but in business,
Yes,
you don't
you're
have
right.
that luxury. So how
Yeah.
can you help people with that?
There's a game that I play often with when I'm working with a room, where I'll say to them, you know, every sentence that I am saying is landing completely differently for everybody. In fact, it's worse than that. Every word in every sentence is landing completely differently for everybody. And just to prove my point, I then ask, what's the first thing that you think of when I say the word chicken? Deborah, what's the first thing you think about?
Uh, Fluffy bird with
Fluffy
feathers.
bird. Great. So if you were in an audience with a group of 20 or more people, I'd then go around everybody. And what we would find is that everyone has a different experience of the word chicken. Some people will be thinking about dinner.
Yeah.
Some people will be thinking about a KFC bucket. Some people will be thinking of someone being a coward or running away. You'll get all sorts of different things. You'll get some people who are thinking of many chickens in a field, or in a barn, and
Or
sometimes
eggs or
yes. The thing is, you may find that there are some elements of similarity, but you'll find that nobody in the room has exactly the same experience of the word chicken. And that's not a difficult
yeah.
concept, right? So uh, when we talk about forming relationships with people who are very different to us, what I often say is you cannot sell a roast dinner to a vegetarian.
Well, I'm a vegan, and that's why I didn't immediately think of the
Exactly,
meat.
exactly.
I thought of the fluffy bird, the nice
Yes.
feathery bird pecking about on the ground that I would have a little talk with. I know that sounds mental, but that's what I would do. And if you suddenly then went off with chicken and oh, isn't it lovely with roast potatoes or whatever you have
Exactly,
chicken
exactly.
with, I'd be like, no, not really.
No. So the trick of building relationships with people who are very different to you is to be more interested in their chicken than your own.
Ah, okay. So, well, now we're getting somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
So the dictionary definition of rapport is the willingness to enter someone else's world without any form of judgment.
Oh, well, that's a toughie. That's a
Mhm.
tough one.
Yeah. So that it mainly involves not saying a great deal, but doing a lot of listening
Mm.
in
And
order to
seeing
find
that our
out.
voices are something that you teach with, that's kind of like a little bit
Yeah. Yeah.
counterintuitive, isn't it?
Yeah. Can be. Can be. I'll, and where a lot of people, I guess, make a mistake in this world of running a business or selling and trying to build relationship is they're trying too hard. And what it does is it pushes people away because it makes them feel not safe. So I often talk about there being three states that human beings can be in. Three, I call them circles of energy that we can transmit in this world. And the first circle is the kind of hiding invisibility circle of energy where everything's directed inward. The third circle of energy is when someone's trying too hard and is trying to be convincing. This is sort of the second-hand car salesman sort of energy, where the harder they try, the more you actually want to be somewhere else because it's just too much. It's not right for the energy between the two of you. And the second circle of energy, of course, is the balanced one in the middle, the one where we are present in ourselves because we're breathing nice and low and slow, and we've got the antenna here to be able to give energy to another human being. In the first circle and third circle, you can't, because you're so focused on your own experience, you can't be genuinely there for another person.
And this genuineness, this
Yes.
authenticity, what would you say? How quickly can people spot a fake?
Oh, very quickly. Remember, it's 23 seconds, and people are looking at the body language. People believe the physical body before they believe the words that someone is saying.
So the challenge then is to try and get that balance between being all things. We can't be all things to all people.
No, and certainly not now. You cannot be a generalist in the 21st century. You can't be all things to all people. You have to say, this is my niche. These are the people I want to serve. This is what I can solve that is worth them investing money.
And so, with that, how do you help people who are thinking, who are these people that I
Mm.
would be good to serve? Do you help people thinking, well, you're a bit like this, you very much like this as a person, your communication style is X, Y,
Yeah.
and Z. How about this type of
Well,
person or
so there's
group
two
that you can
there's
serve?
two elements to consider, and one is who are the people in this world I have the most fun with, or who have I worked with in the past who's been the most fun to work with, and the other is who have I worked with in the past who has paid the most or paid most quickly. And if you can marry those two things together in the same kind of person, then you go, oh, okay, great. Yeah, I need to work with female banking executives aged between 45 and 55, because um, before 55, they probably haven't got enough money to be able to invest in me, and after 55, typically they want to think about retiring rather than moving their career. Uh, okay, so then you've got a nice little niche, and you can step into a room and go, "Hi, I'm David, and I typically work with female banking executives aged between 45 and 55." And then when you say that to people, they either know those people or they don't.
Well,
And
they
if they
are them.
right, or they are there, right? And then I can say, if I could help you earn 200,000 to 300,000 more than you're earning at the moment, would it be worth our having a conversation?
Well, that's a very compelling
Right?
opportunity to give somebody, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
And
And
also from your own business as well, there will be
yes,
ladies out there that go, yeah, me. I'll
yes,
do
but
that.
and
I'm up for that.
absolutely, and then there's still a thing about making it safe. That there's something else, because often people will say to your face, "Oh, I really want to earn more money," but actually there are so many limiting beliefs that they have about what that would mean, that then they might self-sabotage in the way that they show up unless I'm being there for them in a state of presence to help them release that so we can step over it. Because if we don't release it, you can never step over it, right? So some people hold limiting beliefs in their unconscious mind around, well, actually, if it, yes, it'd be nice to earn 200,000 more, but it probably means I'll spend less time with my family. It probably means I'm going to have to do 15-hour days. It probably means working over the weekend. There's different needs involved. So it's like, who would actually like to be happier and more engaged with what they're doing and earn more money?
And this is the thing, isn't it? And I'm not going to separate the sexes unnecessarily, but a lot of women out there, and I know because I was one of them, I didn't feel that I had a voice. And I always felt I was from a banking scenario. I've changed career, but I've also been in banking. And I'd open my mouth on those rare occasions, and immediately somebody else in the room would kind of just like talk over me. And I go, oh, right.
Yeah. And how often does that have to happen for you not to bother trying anymore?
Well, that's it. In the end, you see the people and the dynamic in the room, and you go, there's no point in opening my mouth with that person in the room because I'm never going to get a word in edgeways. It's just like you have to put up your hand and say, excuse me. And then when they started and you'd already, you were talking and they're talking over you, at one point I thought, no, I'm going to carry on. I'm going to carry on like it was a battle. And they got louder and they still didn't stop and just completely drowned me out. And everybody's looking around, and I'm like, hold on a minute, did nobody going to say anything? Because I didn't have the retort or
Yeah.
the confidence to say, excuse me, could you let me finish? I just let him do it.
So, when we get down to it, and I'm working with my clients, there's all sorts of things that we can play with in that scenario in order to get a different result. Um, Definitely, and it does. One has to step out of one's comfort zone to really do that, because what you're doing is you're establishing a new perception of value around you by having a more powerful voice that gets to where you want it to get to and is uninterruptible. So we would probably look at developing what I call the warrior voice, the lower notes in the voice. That sometimes I meet a lot of women who have avoided using the lower notes in the voice, and as a result, the lower notes is where competence is defined.
It reminds me of way back in the day when I was growing up and Margaret Thatcher
Mm.
was Prime Minister. And I think she had vocal training
She did, yes,
because her voice at the beginning was
yes,
not the voice that was towards, within her time in office. It was a lot higher to begin with, and then all of a
much in
sudden,
'79,
no,
much.
da.
When Yes, so she worked with a voice coach who helped her drop her voice by nearly an octave. I mean, the
Whoa.
work that she did on her voice was quite incredible, uh, really. But she used that new voice to win that second election,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
it's like competence sits in those lower notes, and warmth sits in the higher notes. Those are the two areas we're constantly being judged on: competence and warmth, and how someone shows up, how someone uses their voice, how someone uses their body. All are methodologies by which we're judging warmth, competence, and we have to be satisfied with both in order to make a purchase.
Well, this again is very interesting because I'm going to take Madonna, the singer, as an example. When Madonna came first onto the scene, I'm going back way, these memories are great.
Yeah.
I remember, and this is the thing of a voice, it's so powerful that all these years, and I'm suddenly remembering now we're talking about it, is she started off with this quite high-pitched, poppy, girly kind of sound. And as she got older, I think she realized it would look incongruent if she still had this little squeaky voice. And then all of a sudden, it was like in the next album, she'd done a Margaret Thatcher in
Yeah.
a way. And she went down, and it was obvious. It was really obvious that she'd had vocal tuition or access to part of her voice that she wasn't before, to be seen as a credible long-term woman in her genre. And she lasted, and she's gone on for many years, but that poppy, high-pitched, girly sound then made way for the mature woman coming through, and that's how then she carried on for the rest of her career.
Absolutely, and her impact is quite extraordinary. Whatever you think of her music, her impact in popular culture has been extraordinary. And there's a line in Daniel Priestley's Key Person of Influence, which is a bad singer with a microphone is just a loud bad singer. It's it's like it's not the, and the microphone doesn't get paid. It's
Yeah.
the person who speaks into the microphone who gets paid. So it's about what you do with what you have got inside you that matters in terms of how you show up. And showing up in a way that says you're going to get 1 million in value out of me, and makes the other person go, oh, I'm totally safe here. And then we can have a proper conversation. Then we can work out, are we a match? And the beauty of the stage is you can have that conversation one to many. So if you're selling and presenting, or selling virtual selling, by like in a Zoom room or on a webinar, then of course it's slightly more difficult, because we're in a two-dimensional environment, but yet the unconscious mind does not know that we are in a two-dimensional environment. So the unconscious mind is going, where's the rest of Deborah?
Ah, yes.
Right? Because, consciously, you and I are in Zoom right now. But unconsciously, where's the rest of Deborah, right? And so one of the reasons that I do everything in my Zoom room from a standing position is it makes it easier for me to then gesture, show people my empty hands, so that you can build rapport with the unconscious mind.
Seems to take me back. Oh gosh, I'm going back into you. You're kind of doing reversion therapy. It's hilarious. There was what was it? The two Ronnies back in the day. They were comedians, for those people that
Yeah.
haven't been around as long as I have. And there was a newsreader at the time. She was one of the first female newsreaders, and her name was Angela Rippon. And as you know, back in the day, newsreaders didn't stand to camera. They were always behind the desk. So nobody got to see the newsreader from, the sort of the waist downwards. Everybody saw from the waist, or a little bit higher up, upwards. And I always remember, I think it was a Christmas special or something like that they had. And Angela Rippon, I think she's been on Strictly Come Dancing
He
anyway.
has
But she
recently, yeah.
was a dancer as
Yeah.
well as an extremely good journalist and newsreader. Anyway, they had her on this show, and they dressed her up in this amazing gown and everybody was absolutely shocked to see Angela Rippon's legs prancing about the stage with the two Ronnies. I mean, it was a massive hit, because all they'd ever seen of Angela Rippon was from the desk up.
Yeah.
And the perception was, wow, we've only ever seen these people as newsreaders as this kind of character. And actually, yes, they do have legs.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Uh, and there's a sort of perception that you get to know them better the more you reveal more about yourself. So the thing is that being in the news, or being a news reader on television, you can be competent, and you can be distanced, and you can be neutral, and then something like that happens, and you get a sense of, oh, I know a little bit more about them. That's what brings that funny sense that people have of, they think they actually know uh, television celebrities. They'll go up and talk to television celebrities like they already know them, and because of the perception that they get from television. It takes two dimensions. Takes a little bit of work, though, because you want to be in charge of what it is that other people experience. But the principles are the same of creating the level of safety that then allows you to make an offer in a presentation or a webinar that leads the right people to be in your diary the next day. You know, if you could do once a month a 60-minute webinar, and you could have an audience of 50, 20 of whom step into your personal Zoom room the next day or the day after, and by the weekend you could close, let's say, between 5 and 8 of those people into a high ticket service.
Massive game changer. Huge game changer.
Yes. Because the level of income you can suddenly get from selling one to many, then what you can do is you can put systems in place that free you up.
Oh, it's such a valuable service that you give to people, and ultimately to unlock the power of how we show up, how we use our voices, how we engage with our audience, phraseology, how you have those pauses, and then how you move into something and people are going along with the story. And I suppose it's a bit like our ancestors around the fire telling those stories
Yes.
of how then people learned and took that wisdom and the art of storytelling, which is what we're doing all the
Yeah.
time, with storytelling. When we get it right and we keep it compelling, and our audience are like, wow, tell us more. This is really amazing. As you're saying, that perceived value is incredibly high because people are. I always remember with the old soap operas going to be continued, and it would be
Yes.
just at the cliffhanger, and you go,
Yes.
oh no, I've got to wait for another week before we had all the technology now where you can binge watch. But it was like, oh no, and absolutely got you on the knife edge so that you'd be tuning in the next week. It's a great skill to have.
It's about being dynamic, and you know, I think it's interesting that with the changes that have happened with cinema and storytelling, since if you think about the classic era of cinema in particular, it was in many ways it was much more dynamic than it is now, because you used to reveal character through how they moved in a story. And so a camera would follow them moving. But now we edit so much more that people don't move. Everyone has, so we now have film and television where people just sit down. And I find it really undynamic. Whereas, previously we might have had far less editing, but then a character might jump up out of the chair, run across the room, or pick someone up, or and shake them, do you know what I mean? It's like people
Yeah.
reveal their relationships with each other through the way that they move with each other through the frame of life, and that's how cinema always operated in the classic era, until it was in the 1970s that filmmakers discovered this thing really called intensified continuity, where we would cut, and all the time just edit. And as a result, people moved less. And people need to move more, right?
Well, brilliant. And I know that you're the absolute expert in helping people to move in their presence, to command the safety and the respect of the audience, large or small, so that basically you've got people listening to your words, listening to your voice, listening to the unsaid as well as the said. And It's very interesting what you do. If somebody's thinking, well, this is all very well, but I'm just a disaster. I can't do this. It frightens the life out of me. I'm not a natural. I'm an introvert, and actually I'm an introvert by nature. It's not
Yeah.
me as sort of like, before a few months ago, you would never have caught me doing this. Never, ever. What words of wisdom can you have for those people that you think, you know what? Nah, I won't get there. What can you say to them?
See, I'm an introvert too. And in terms of disaster, I've worked with so many people who've come to me and gone, I bet you can't do anything with me. And I'll bet I'll be the worst client you have ever had. And I say, well, if I had a penny for every time I've heard that statement, I'd be wealthy on those pennies alone. The thing is, just bring it on. I love a challenge. Feel like you are a disaster. Bring it on. Book into my Zoom room. Have a chat with me. Uh, let let's see whether actually a disaster who is actually up for moving. More than ever, those people need help like mine. If you feel you're a disaster, that's why we should be talking.
Brilliant. I love it. And also, if you think, yeah, I'm competent, but I
Yeah.
really want to move on and I don't seem to be getting there in the time frame or the speed. And you don't know what you don't know. That's the thing with the beauty of having somebody like yourself, David. You've seen it, done it, been there, coached, understand it all. And it's not everybody's natural go-to, is it, really? We
No,
take
it's not a natural thing to ask groups of people to look at you. It's not a natural thing. It's weird to ask everybody, 50 people, to stop everything they're doing and sit looking at you whilst you speak. That's not a natural thing for a human being to do. So that's why it's so terrifying. Uh, the the power that you have by taking a deep breath and stepping over that fear is remarkable. But yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, it's not a natural thing to do. So I think no one should feel embarrassed about being scared of it.
And you know what? We all have to learn.
Mm,
And when we learn, we make mistakes, and that's absolutely fine because the more
correct.
mistakes we make, the better we'll be.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. And then it
Yeah.
becomes fun.
Yes.
It's a pleasure, it's play, it's great because you've broken down some of that fear and it's wonderful. Thank you, David. Wonderful words of inspiration, wisdom, gnosis. You know your stuff inside out and back to front. You absolutely can help all different types of people, no matter where they come from, socioeconomic, ethnicity, wherever they are in, mobility wise or anything like that. You can help abundantly everybody to show up in a way which is going to really make a game-changing difference to their businesses, to what they're bringing to the party, and also to themselves as well,
Yes.
and their
Yes.
loved ones, which is absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being such an amazing special guest. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure to spend time with you and learn about you as much as talk myself. So I thank you for this. I'm honored.
Oh, well, my pleasure, as I said. And everybody listening, be in touch with David. Oh, and all the details will be on the show notes. But David, have you got anything you can leave us with as far as to how to get hold of you?
Well, yes, David at davidroylance.com is the best way to get a hold of me by email. I do have a free training, which is on speaktoshine.uk/free training webinar. You have to give your email address and name in order to access it, but you will also get a complimentary PDF copy of my Amazon best-selling book, Be Seen, Be Heard, Get Paid What You Are Worth. which details everything that a client would get in a 6-month one-to-one working relationship with Speak to Shine.
Wonderful. Brilliant. Please do be in touch with David. I mean, this, as I said, it can be an absolute game changer. And the value that you get from that free session will be awesome. So I can highly recommend that. Fabulous. Thanks again, David. And for everybody listening, thank you so much for being a part of this show. Couldn't do it without you. Love every one of you to show up and listen, etc. Like, comment, subscribe, share, because you never know, this could be a game changer for somebody. And as I say, have a chat with David. Until next time, be successful. Take care, everybody.